Welcome into edition number 4, episode number 4 of Jungle Juice. It's Sam Gormley and Mick Nelson with you. Mick, game week. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, and for our listeners out there, Christmas came early this year. You guys are getting the show one night early due to prior commitments from us. One that I totally forgot about until about 4:45 this afternoon, and I called Sam in a panic. So
you're getting into the boxing ring with Buddy LaRosa? Is that what I heard?
Yep. Premier boxing event. Me and Buddy LaRosa are going to duke it out. He is heavily.
Isn't he like 90
match.
years old? Is that not necessarily
he's definitely up there. I guess I'll see him tomorrow. Actually, though, like that'll be cool. So for those of you that don't know, I guess Buddy LaRosa is a big boxing guy and holds a big boxing cigar event at the Montgomery Inn Boathouse. So I guess either like the Ohio elite, like high school boxers, are going up against some boxing team from Belfast. So that should be.
That's how you get to spend your Wednesday evening, right? And then I get to spend my Wednesday evening doing high school soccer because Mick is an accountant in his day job, and I am a small town radio broadcaster. So we actually have to do our jobs is pretty much the main thing. So that's why we are on a day earlier than expected, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot planned because I don't know really how much is going to change in the next 24 hours, but this probably guarantees, Mick, that in the next 24 hours, the Burrow deal will be done and some other big news will happen because we won't have another show planned. And if that happens, we might have to figure something out. But as of now, the big news of the week, I think, is that there's been no news as far as the Joe Burrow contract.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of speculation this week from the folks at Twitter. I thought I saw somebody saying that like the Bengals have put an offer out on the table this week, or and I'm not sure how much weight that carries, or if somebody's just trying to get some get some news out there that's not necessarily news. I don't know, but just based on what I've seen so far, maybe there is progress coming. So maybe we'll see it by week 1 against the Browns. If not, I think it's most assuredly a 2024 offseason issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at this point, it's. I mean, we can keep talking about it, but it's almost like we're getting to the point where it's like beating a dead horse. Mm-hmm. Like there's only so much more that we can say because nobody knows anything. They've kept this thing completely under wraps for good reason because they don't want all of the talking heads to just continuously talk about it. They want it to be done when they're ready for it to be done. So because of that, I don't really know that there's much more than we need to say that you haven't already heard.
No.
So because of that, on today's show, we are going to dive into our season preview. The last couple of weeks, we've gone offense, we've gone defense, we've talked about the 53. So today, we're going to be handing out some awards. We're going to be going game by game, giving our predictions for records and so on. We're also going to do a deep dive into Sunday's game because, Bengals-Browns starts Sunday afternoon. We'll go through, position by position. Do the Bengals have the edge in all of these? How does it look? We'll talk about that, and then we'll end the show with our pick for Bengals at Browns at 1 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. Iron Eagle will have the call, and Clete Blakeman will be the ref. I don't know if you care about that, but Clete Blakeman will be the official.
I did not know about that. I do care about it, I guess.
Well, and then if you want to be this guy too, according to I feel like I can say our good friend Jay Morrison. I've never met Jay, but he just feels like he's the kind of guy that he's everybody's friend.
He is a good friend to us all.
He tweeted. Are we still allowed to call it a tweet? A post? He X'd it earlier today that the Bengals are 9-9 in games officiated by Clete Blakeman. Now, does that mean anything at all? I don't know. But still, found it interesting. Clete Blakeman will be the official. If you care, he will be there. And Iron Eagle and Charles Davis will be on the call.
It's not Ron Torbert, so that's great.
Correct. Or Jerome Boger, because Jerome Boger's retired, so he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jerome Boger just because, he just seems like one of us calling and officiating a game, which is really bad. It's not a good thing that one of us would be officiating a game, but I didn't know Jerome Boger retired.
He did. I think from what I can understand, it might have been one of those like, hey, Jerome, buddy, I think it's time. Wink, wink, like he retired.
You did good, Jerome. You did good.
You did good. You did your chore, but it's time for somebody younger to get their chance. So for the season preview, I think that we can start off by just going through a couple of awards. And we'll make a couple of bold predictions. And then we're also going to go into the AFC North as a whole. Because I think, for Bengals fans, that's huge. That's the biggest part about it is, how have the Steelers potentially gotten a little better? How have the Ravens gotten better? How have the Browns gotten better? Or maybe it's not that they've gotten better, that they've gotten worse. But first off, Mick, I think we got to start with giving out our preseason prediction for the MVP of the Bengals. And we are putting an asterisk by this, other than Joe Burrow, because that's the easy answer. So other than Joe Burrow, Mick, do you have a team MVP or, MVP coming up at the end of the year?
Yes, I do. It is Cam Taylor-Britt.
Interesting pick.
Yes.
So you're expecting big year out of Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah, I liked a lot of what I saw in CTB in the playoff games and towards the end of the season last year. I think he made a lot of strides. The guy's very physical at corner. His coverage skills could be refined a little bit during the season, but the guy is physical. The guy is always looking to make tackles. I think we're going to see a pretty big jump from him this year. So if I had to pick a potential MVP on the defensive side of the ball, I would go with CTB. And that's also speaking that, it's got to come from a high value position, right? So corner's a pretty high value position. I didn't want to go with Jamar or T. I feel like those would be very obvious choices.
Yeah, and I was thinking, Jamar Chase is the easiest next answer. So I'll stick with the defensive side of the ball, and I'll say Trey Hendrickson. And I know that that's not necessarily a hot take over here by anything, but all signs point to him being just an absolute menace, more so than he actually usually is during the preseason. So because of that, I think my team MVP prediction, other than Joe Burrow, is Trey Hendrickson. So we both go defense there. And I think Trey's probably maybe an obvious pick. I don't know. Did I take a cop out?
I don't think you did. There's a lot. I thought, DJ Reader could have been an option, or Cheeto you could say Cheeto's going to come back and return to form pretty quickly, or Dax Hill's just a breakout guy.
Logan Wilson,
Wilson,
Jermaine Pratt, they've all had good ones. I'm throwing a wild card here on you for Mick, because you made me think about this. So we didn't prep for this, but your surprise player of the year, who is going to surprise you the most this coming year? Is there a guy that comes to mind?
Well, so the guy who's going to surprise me most.
How about this? I'll go first and I'll let you think about it.
Okay.
And I don't know how hot of a take this is. What about Irv Smith? Because let's be real,
really hot take, but yeah, he could.
But I think both of us have very low expectations for Irv Smith.
I don't know if I have low expectations. I expect him to come in and fill the Hayden Hurst and CJ Uzama role, which is,
and I think he's going to be a little better, I guess, is kind of my surprise.
He might be for when he's on the field.
I don't know how much of a hot take that is, but that's my surprise, because my expectations for him, I think just primarily because he's had so much injury history, that I think that he's always been this guy that has had all of this potential but can't stay on the field. And as I say, the best quality is availability. And he hasn't had that. And so that's why I'm going to take Irv Smith as a surprise player of the year prediction.
Okay. So I've got mine.
Okay.
Jonah Williams.
Williams.
For those of you that kept close tabs, last year, Jonah did not have his best season as the left tackle of the team. It was actually so bad that everybody wanted him gone or, traded or something like that. Now, Jonah was dealing with a knee injury for probably 3/4, 2/3, probably 3/4 of the season last year, and we don't know how much that hindered his production. But he is going back to his old college position at right tackle, so he does have some.
No, Jonah's never played right tackle.
He played right tackle in college, I thought.
He's always been a left tackle. That's been the biggest thing with this, is he has never played right tackle ever. At any level of football. He's never played.
I believe you, but I swear I thought they were talking about
this one I'm pretty certain on, that he has never played.
So he played right tackle. He played right tackle in his freshman year at Alabama.
Okay, maybe as a backup or something. I don't know that he ever. I don't ever remember him. But still, okay. But okay, so you're saying him going back. We'll get back to the point at hand.
Yes. So I think last year, in terms of Jonah's overall production grade, whatever you want to say, I think that was a fluke. Jonah's typically been pretty middle of the road to maybe a slight upgrade at the tackle position. So I think last year was a fluke. I think I think that knee injury was really hindering his production last year. I don't know how much more he had to pick up because Cordell Volson was a rookie starting left guard, and how much he had to take, how much he had to help out Cordell there. So, he's switching sides. The returns have they seem like they're pretty decent right now. It seems like he's doing a good job. He did a good job in camp at right tackle. And I think you'll see Jonah kind of come back to form this year. So if I have a surprise player, it's going to be Jonah.
Your rookie of the year this year for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Rookie.
You better not take mine. Because to me, I think it's a relatively easy answer. At least when you think about it. And so can I give mine first then?
DJ Turner.
Okay, good, because that's not the one I was going to go with.
I'm going to go DJ Turner. I think he might get some reps in at corner at some point. Maybe not early on in the year, but I don't see a lot of these rookies playing much. I think Charlie Jones might get some work in the return game. Barring injury, I don't know if you'll see it. Maybe you'll see Jordan Battle play a little bit because the safety room is a huge question mark. But
Brad Robbins, that's my rookie of the year.
Well, that's a good pick. That's actually probably the most realistic pick.
Brad Robbins is my rookie of the year because I think having a elite, I don't even want to throw the elite term on him, but I think he can really change things. And that's why I'm picking him as my rookie of the year, because I think you think back to the end of that AFC Championship game, it was a bad punt. And, if Brad Robbins was the punter in that game,
maybe it could have been a good pump.
Maybe the Bengals win the Super Bowl. Like, you can say all of these what ifs, but the punt was awful by Drew Chrisman. And because of that, he let the returner get a return of however many yards it was and gave Mahomes. And then obviously we don't need to relive that. We know what happened. I don't want to go down that road. I'm not ready yet.
It was a good game, Sam. It was a good game. Both teams could have won. It was. I was just happy to see the Bengals in the AFC Championship competing.
Yes.
And playing
yes.
well.
And you're not wrong about it, but I'm just not there yet. I got to watch. Once the Bengals-Browns game kicks off, I'll be ready to talk about it. But until then, I need to feel better about some football until then. You kind of already had the bold prediction a little bit with Jonah Williams, but do you have any other bold predictions for what should come out this year?
Other than what I said last year, that CTB will be a second-team All-Pro. I don't really have much. I mean, what do you say?
Here's one that I want you.
Chase breaks his record that he already broke, or breaks the record he already broke. I mean,
here's one that I thought was interesting that Mo Egger had on Hear That Podcast Growling, which is a great podcast. If you don't listen to it, Paul Daner does a great job over there. Mo came on, and his bold prediction / hot take, which I don't think is really entirely hot, is that at the end of the year, depending on whatever metric you want to go, the Bengals defense will be ranked higher than the Bengals offense.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and it was one that I didn't really think about it. And Anthony writes in and says, clutch accuracy punter definitely makes a difference. I agree. Robbins is the rookie of the year. I hope he is, because if he is, then I think, honestly, let's put it this way, Mick. I think him being rookie of the year means really good things for the Bengals, because that means that they didn't have many injuries that forced the other guys to play. And then it also turns out that Robbins was really good. So I think that Robbins being the rookie of the year would be a good thing. That's the only thing that would worry me about DJ Turner, because I think DJ Turner playing means that there's been an injury somewhere in that starting corner room.
Yes.
And with him being rookie of the year, it would mean it was an extensive injury, because he'd be playing multiple games. So I hope you're wrong when it comes to that, because I want to see a lot of Cam Taylor-Britt, and I want to see a lot of Cheeto. And even Mike Hilton, even though I don't know that DJ Turner would be slotted inside on.
I think that's where they're grooming him to go. I mean, just with
See, I think he's Cheeto's replacement.
Could be. I don't know. He has more the fit of depending on what you want to use your slot corner. Some guys like to go small. Some guys like to go, with the bigger guy. I'm not sure. I mean, Mike Hilton's definitely on the smaller end of corners, I think, and at least in terms of height. So that's where I'm thinking DJ Turner probably in that slot role, but I don't know.
I don't know. I just think it's an interesting one to go. Before we jump into the AFC North, Mick, I want to try something new here with you as I don't know what we can call it, 4 downs or something like that, but I have 4 here. I'm not saying that they're my takes, but these are 4 takes that I think some Bengals fans potentially might have, or maybe even ones that I've just come up with. And for you, I'm going to ask you, buy or sell on these takes. Okay, are you ready? I've got 4 of them.
All right, let's go.
This kind of will lead into our AFC North discussion here in a few minutes. But the first one, the AFC North gets 3 playoff teams. Buy or sell?
Buy. The AFC North is probably the best division in the league this year. I know a lot of guys are saying it's the AFC East with Aaron Rodgers joining that division. But I think, honestly, any team in the AFC North has a chance of winning the division this year. And I know Bengals fans don't want to hear that, but this might be the most competitive I've seen the division this season, for this year. It's got to be the most competitive I've seen in a very long time.
My second one, Jonah Williams will be a top 12 PFF right tackle.
Sell.
What if I would have said top 15?
Buy. I feel like he's going to be in that 12 to 18 range, which is definitely a lot better than he did last year.
Thought it was an interesting one. Okay, here's your next one. Jamar Chase will win Offensive Player of the Year.
Sell. Just because you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, he's going to spread the ball around. Even though he does like going to Jamar a lot, there's a lot of other wide receiver ones. Not a lot. There's other wide receiver ones that have more volume. You got Justin Jefferson. Tyreek Hill had a lot of volume last year. I'm going to go with the sell for Jamar getting Offensive Player of the Year.
And the final one, and again, it's kind of leading into what we're getting ready to discuss as well. Buy or sell, the Bengals will be the number 1 overall seed in the AFC.
Sell.
You heard it there. Sell. Mick doesn't believe in the Bengals. You heard it here first.
I believe in us because, I've been proven wrong before. They went to the Super Bowl in 2021, won the division 2 years in a row. But this division, this conference is a gauntlet. It is a gauntlet. I don't even know if there's a guarantee the Bengals win the division this year. That's how hard the division is. So, I don't know.
No, I mean, and you're leading right into kind of the next points that we were wanting to talk about is this AFC North as a whole. And we'll kind of table the Browns because we're going to be talking about the Browns at the end of the show here because we'll be diving into them because they're how they match up with the Bengals. So, Mick, let's just talk about, the city near West Virginia and Baltimore, the Ratbirds, I guess. Isn't that what I know Bengal Jim's got all of his nicknames, and I always love it. City near West Virginia is my favorite, so we'll start favorite as far as
I tell Kaylee and Aaron that all the time. I'm like, wow, how's it feel to be like, a West Virginian, like because I'm a West Virginian, I guess technically. So I mean, call them my fellow West Virginians, and they get very upset with me.
Now I know that Kenny Pickett, Steeler fans are very, very excited about what Kenny Pickett could bring to Pittsburgh. I am not on the Kenny Pickett train. I haven't been. Are you on the Kenny Pickett train that he could be I don't think that, and I think that even true Steeler fans in their heart of heart can admit that I don't think Kenny Pickett will ever be at a Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts level.
No.
But can he be that next tier down?
Could he be a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback? And I think the answer is yes for that. And given what the Steelers' MO has been, which is tough defense, good wide receivers, I think Kenny Pickett could definitely get to that stratosphere. I think he definitely could win games. So I don't. Is everybody saying Pickett's going to be the next Mahomes? Is that what Steelers fans are saying? Or
You
not?
could
Or
you
the
could
next
find
Joe
some that
Burrow?
would say that. You could find some that would say that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can necessarily buy that
but
yet.
I think that there's like that next tier down, and is Kirk Cousins the next tier down?
I would put Kirk Cousins in the next tier. I mean, there's a big drop off, right? I mean, you put Kirk Cousins in that tier. You put, I guess, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers in that tier. You put
Lamar,
Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. I think you could see similar production from Kenny Pickett, and then that's honestly
Matthew Stafford. I think is now in that tier.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good quarterback to list there.
So I guess can Kenny Pickett be Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett.
I guess where he's never elite, but he can win you a lot of games.
Yeah, and that's all the Steelers need is a quarterback that can go in, do his job, and not hurt the team's chances of winning.
Are you worried about the Steelers as a legit threat to win the AFC North?
You're going to ask me about this, man. I'm worried about this with every team. Now, the one thing that the rest of the division has going for it is that Matt Canada is still the offensive play caller for the Steelers. So that's an automatic win for the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens. But I don't know. I mean, I think you'll see a progression from Kenny Pickett in year 2. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I thought he was a good pick when he was drafted a couple years ago. They have overhauled the pass blocking unit, which I'm going to pull up that depth chart real quick, but they signed a couple guys. They signed Isaac Seumalo from the Eagles. They signed James Daniel from the Bears. So I think you'll see a pretty good pass blocking unit. The defense should be pretty good. They signed Patrick Peterson at corner, which he had a fairly decent year he was with the Vikings last year, right? I'm going to say, he was with the Vikings.
I can never be. Yeah, Vikings, Cardinals, something like that.
I believe he was with the Vikings last year. So, and then they also signed Cole Holmcomb out of Washington to take a linebacker spot. I think they made a lot of good moves this offseason. And yeah, I think they are a threat, but it also just kind of depends on the progression that Kenny Pickett
I think that's good enough to call him that.
The progression he shows in year 2, I think that's going to be the biggest variable factor in their equation for success this year.
If you're watching with us, be sure to let us know if you as a Bengals fan are worried about the Steelers as a threat to compete and win the AFC North. I think the next team, in the North that we'll talk about is the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar got his contract. He is healthy. He's back. They actually have some wide receivers now. I mean, they have 35-year-old Odell Beckham. Is he about 35?
He's probably he's that old. He's probably 30. He's probably a 32-year-old with like 50-year-old knees or 60-year-old knees.
He's about 35 kind of thing.
The guy's a cyborg at this point. He's 30.
Wow. Zay Jones, I know they drafted him out of Boston College, and that offense is interesting. And then they hired Todd Monken to be their offensive coordinator. Obviously, the biggest thing is that the Ravens, we know they can run the ball, but can they pass the ball? And I think that they're at least headed in the right direction there.
I don't know. If I think there's a clear regression candidate out of all the 4 teams in the division, it's probably the Ravens. We have no idea how Lamar's going to look in this pass-heavy system that Todd Monken's going to implement, which we know it's going to be an air raid type of attack. That is what his MO has been his entire career as an offensive play caller. You can go back to the days with Jameis and the Buccaneers and how often they were throwing the ball. You can look to the disaster year that he was the Browns offensive coordinator under Freddie Kitchens. That was bad. So I think they're a clear regression candidate. I don't know how Lamar is going to look in this system because he's dealt his entire career with an offensive system entirely centered around his ability as a runner when Greg Roman was calling plays, and now you are having this ginormous shift to what Todd Monken's usually doing. So there's definitely going to be some growing pains there.
So, and then I think the defense too is not. I think the Ravens are kind of in that Steelers range where it's like, even if they weren't scoring, you knew that the defense was going to keep them in games.
Yes.
And
that's what happened pretty much the entire second half of the year last year.
Yeah, and I don't know that the Ravens defense is as Ravens defense as it usually is, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, they have a lot of questions when it comes to the cornerback depth. They've got Marlon Humphrey.
And he's been dealing with a knee injury too.
Dealing with injuries, so he might not even be available for the first few weeks of the year. And then your quarterback too is Rocky Ascent, second rounder out of Temple. From a few years ago, he was with the Colts for a while, and I thought he was with a different team, but last year. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of depth issues at corner. Now you still have some decent players. You've got Kyle Hamilton, who had a really good year last year as like a hybrid safety linebacker, nickelback, just like a Swiss Army knife on the defense. So I think you're going to see a pretty good year from him. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of pass rush get generated from the front four in Baltimore this year. It seems like that department might be lacking a little bit. Looking at the depth chart right now, you have Odafe, who is probably their best pass rusher on the defensive line or at the edge rusher position, and then their typical Broderick Ross, Washington, Michael Pierce, Justin Madubuike. I don't know.
Ojabo, right? The guy out of Michigan, he should be healthy.
Yeah, Ojabo could definitely get. Yeah, that'll be an interesting guy to watch this year for sure. Is Ojabo. But I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was just like, they still have Justin Tucker too, so they still have that weapon as well. But I think I kind of agree with you that they're the best case for a potential regression. Now, does that mean like if we come January, the whatever it is, and the Ravens win the division, does that mean I'm going to be surprised? Absolutely not. But I think I kind of agree with you there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the defense will be okay. I think it'll be decent depending on where their corners can take them. But that is a clear issue that really wasn't resolved this offseason. So yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see that. They should be pretty good against the run though, but pass heavy league, I mean, I don't know how much that really gets you or how far that gets you.
Especially when you got to face Joe Burrow twice a year kind of thing.
Yeah.
How about let's go game by game into this new season here for the Cincinnati Bengals. We are going to pass on the week one, game one, and we're going to come back to it. Same thing with the Browns as a whole. So we're going to start off with week 2, Mick. Bengals hosting the Ravens for the third straight home game. Are you calling that to be a win or a loss, and kind of why?
I'm going to go with the win. I think that the Ravens corners are going to be tested. I think the receivers are going to run free and run wild in that game. I'll give you the money of the week a week early on that one. Joe Burrow over in the passing yards, whatever that line's going to fall.
I completely agree, too. I think that especially if Marlon Humphrey doesn't play, I don't know that it's going to be quite as bad as the home game, not last year, but the year prior, where Burrow passed for 1,000,000 yards and, T. Higgins, took away, over top. I don't think it's going to be quite that bad, but I still think the Bengals win week 2 against the Ravens. And Monday Night Football against the Rams, I'll go ahead and chalk that up for a win. I think that atmosphere is going to be incredible with whiteout again.
You get to see Chad and Boomer get enshrined.
I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm going to go wild. Revenge. So I think you're probably picking a win as well.
Super Bowl revenge against a roster where the Super Bowl roster is pretty much gone.
It's still Aaron Donald is still there, and I don't forget how he tried to beat somebody with his helmet during training camp practice last year.
Yeah, it was a little rough.
So you're calling that a win?
Yeah, I'll call that a win.
Week 4, the Cincinnati Bengals hit the road, and they travel to the Tennessee Titans, team that they've handled. As of
Yeah,
late.
I'm gonna go with the win. Just so I don't think the Titans are going to be nearly as bad as everybody thinks they're going to be, but Zach Taylor always seems to have Vrabel's number, and Burrow seems to have the Titans number, and you know,
I agree
whatever.
too. I think that's a win. Just because I don't know with the Titans. I mean, Derrick Henry's there, but the Bengals' run defense, it's not necessarily a worry for me. So I'm not too entirely worried about what they can do against Derrick Henry, because really for the most part they've shut him down pretty well. He had the one big run. Was it in the playoff game? I guess it was in the playoff game. They did the one big run, but other than that, they've done a pretty good job shutting down Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the games of the Titans are always the just tough, gritty games. So I think it's going to be a hard fought win for sure.
The Titans are an AFC North team that plays in the AFC South.
They are. That's a good way to describe it there.
Just slobber knockers is kind of the game how it goes. Then they will travel to the Arizona Cardinals.
Big L. I'm just kidding.
I hope not. Yeah, I mean, do the Cardinals even have a quarterback right now? Caleb Williams?
I think quarterback. I think Clayton Tien's probably going to get the starting job, which I saw him play against UC in that AAC championship game, and he was all right. So yeah,
the last game before the bye week, the Bengals host the Seattle Seahawks, and what is
the
an interesting
home game I won't be at this year.
The last time the Bengals hosted the Seahawks, it was one of the wildest games in Paycor Stadium history.
Yeah, I gave up on that game until probably the fourth quarter. And, call me what you want with that. I was like, I got to stop watching. Maybe they'll win because,
and they did. And they came back and won.
So you're welcome, Cincy, for that game.
Geno Smith bringing his team in. Mick, buy or sell? Is it going to be a win or a loss?
Win.
And I agree. So we both have them at least 5 straight wins going into the bye week, if not maybe even 6, depending on how we pick the Browns game. After the bye week, the Bengals travel to San Francisco and take on the 49ers. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to pick this one first. I'm going to say a loss. I think that's a tough place to play, going to San Francisco.
I'll go loss. Yeah.
Yeah. West Coast. That's going to be tough. Coming back, Sunday Night Football, a stripe out, supposedly. Have you seen this?
No.
So apparently,
what's the deal?
And I don't know that, we're breaking news here, but during the preseason game against the Commanders, they flashed a graphic on the screen, and I took a picture of it, and it said stripe out next to the Bills game. It had like white out next to this. It had, the Cancer Day next to this and so on. And next to the Bills, it had stripe out, which to me thinks, no, here's what I think it'll be. I think it'll be like odd sections where black, even sections where orange. And they'll like stripe the stadium black and orange.
That's actually a cool idea.
So they've tried this in college a lot. Like I was at a UK game where it did it, and it was blue and white, and it looks really, really cool. And I don't know that that's what it is. It just said, in fact, I can maybe even try and put up. See, I think I can probably put up on the screen here. Let's see if technology will allow for me to do this. I hope this doesn't just shut me off and kick me out. But I love it. If this is a true, quote unquote stripe out, on board, I see it happen. Let's see if it'll allow it. But for that game, Mick, who are you picking?
Bengals. Bengals second win in a row over the Bills. I think unfinished business from last year.
I do agree with that as well. I'm trying to see here. I'm still learning how to use all of our software and everything and see. I think there's got to be a way. Okay, I think I can add it here because I want to show that I'm not crazy, because I'm going to pick that as a win as well. I think stripe out or not, that'll be a really good atmosphere. Yes. Apparently, no, it will not allow for me to show this. So you're just going to have to take my word for it.
For sure. I mean, I'll look up a picture right now. Texans game. Big L.
You know what? Honestly, This game kind of worries me.
And
here's why. Here's why. You're coming off of Niners Bills, and then right after that, the Texans game, you have Thursday Night Football at Baltimore, and then you host the Steelers. This screams trap game.
Trap game?
Screams trap game.
See, it kind of depends on how the Niners and the Bills game shake out, right? So, like, if they lose both of those games, you'd think they're just going to come out guns a-blazing against the Texans.
I would not want to be the Texans in that case.
No. So I think I see what you're saying there, but also I'm just like, I'm not on the CJ Stroud hype train, believe it or not. So
here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to pick the Bengals, but close.
Okay.
Field goal.
Trap game. I mean,
Field
they almost beat the Chiefs last year.
Yeah, I mean,
Davis Mills.
24-21, something along the lines of that. I think it'll be a very close game. Langdon writes in here and says Texans going to mess around and be competitive for 16 games.
That is a hot take, Langdon.
Now, I don't know that because I mean, you look at it and
okay, I like the Falcons take a lot more, Langdon.
Falcons 9-8. But I think here's the thing with both of these divisions is they're both in awful divisions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, you could say the Texans go around and be competitive for 16 games. Well, 6 of their games, well, I guess 4 of their games are against meh opponents. You know, the Falcons, 6 of their games are
and they're playing the NFC
opponents.
South this year.
So they're playing each other. So yeah, 100%. Falcons going 9-8 would not be crazy, and they could be an awful 9-8 football team. Okay, Thursday Night Football, Mick, at the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to go ahead and chalk that up as a loss.
I'm going to go with the win just because I hate the Ravens. Your hatred for the Steelers has to equate. I think I hate the Steelers less than I hate the Ravens and the Browns. I think I'm over all of the debauchery in 05 and 15.
There's no shot. Speaking of that team, Bengals hosting the Steelers the week after the Ravens. Bengals by 90.
Last time the Bengals played the Steelers on Thanksgiving weekend at home was maybe the biggest beatdown I've ever seen by the Bengals in a football game ever. It might be
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, 2021, because the Bengals were kind of reeling there. I think they a week before, I think they got embarrassed by the Browns. If I remember, that was the Browns. I think the Browns game was before that, right?
Yes. Browns game was early November.
They got embarrassed by Baker the week before. They might have had a bye week after that, and they just light up the Steelers. So I'm hoping some of that energy comes back this year. So yeah, I'll give the Bengals the win there.
Mick goes Bengals,
and we got to have revenge.
Bengals win against the Steelers, and we do have to write in here since we are a Cincinnati Bengals podcast, we can still say, Nick Martini just hit a 3-run home run to tie the game in the 8th inning for the Reds and the Mariners. So that's good news. For those of you that are Bengals and Reds fans.
Win the game?
Tie game in the 8th inning.
Tie game. Nick Martini's been a very pleasant surprise.
He has been. Bengals at Jaguars, Monday Night Football.
Win. I think the Jaguars are overhyped.
Mick says win, and I can't believe this. I'm going to say loss.
I don't think the Jaguars
say a loss on Monday Night Football.
That good. I think that's where their Achilles heel is going to be. I think their defense is going to be lacking again. And let's face it,
I think
if Tannehill was playing for the second half of last year, I don't think the Jaguars even sniffed the division crown.
Yeah, I mean, you might not be wrong there. Speaking of the AFC South, Bengals hosting the Colts, and Anthony Richardson, starting quarterback. I'll go ahead and start that off. I'm saying win. You know me, I'm not on the Anthony Richardson
against the Texans. I have trap game against the Colts.
But see, for me though, I'm having the Bengals coming off of a loss on Monday night against the Jags, so I have the Bengals winning relatively handily.
So it's like the exact opposite then. If I have them coming off a win on Monday night, trap game against Anthony Richardson. We have no idea how he's going to translate to the NFL. He could be the next big thing, Langdon thinks that Richardson's going to have a rough year.
So you won't win or loss.
I think Josh Downs might be okay this year, Langdon. Hello, Josh.
Josh Isles writes in here.
Josh Isles might be probably better than Josh Downs.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen Josh Isles?
Josh Isles.
He could probably play tight end instead of Irv Smith for the Bengals.
He probably could. Probably be more durable.
Yeah, well, I would hope so. I might be more durable than Irv Smith, which says a lot. Bengals at Colts or Colts at Bengals, Mick. Who's your pick, though? We need this.
I'm gonna go Bengals, but it's kind of like I think it's gonna be a closer game than what people say.
So your Bengals Colts is me Bengals Texans as far as a game that's closer than it should be, but they find a way to win. Yes. Bengals hosting the Vikings in a game that could potentially be a prime time, as that game is, I think it is still question mark as to which day it's going to be on.
I think it's probably the most likely primetime flex game that week. I'd have to go back and look at the week, but
I mean, Justin Jefferson against Jamar Chase. You get that. Arguably the two best wide receivers in the NFL. That's going to be a tough one. If the game was in Minnesota, I'd be picking the Vikings. But since it's in Cincinnati and if it's in primetime, I'm picking the Bengals.
Yeah, I'll go Bengals. I don't know what we're going to see out of the Vikings this year. They massively overachieved and won one-score games at a clip last year that was kind of unprecedented. Probably had like an 800, 900% winning percentage in one-score games. So I feel like that's not going to repeat itself again in 2023.
Bengals at Steelers on I guess it's the 23rd, so right before Christmas. Will Santa Claus deliver a Bengals victory
game, right? I mean, it's kind of.
I think it's a 4:25, isn't it? I think so. I think it's the Saturday before.
Yeah, that's like the only game in that time slot. They're only doing like 2 or 3 Saturday games on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's the day before Christmas Eve, so it's the 23rd. Will Santa Claus deliver a Bengals victory, Mick?
I'm going to say no.
No, and I believe that they will. They will deliver the Bengals victory at the Steelers. The week after, Bengals at Chiefs. New Year's Eve, the game everyone has circled on the schedule. Mick, who wins Bengals at Chiefs round 5?
That's a very tough question. That's
very well. I mean, a potential winner gets the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, no, definitely could be the case. I'll go Bengals because I just have to pick my team here. I don't know. It's a toss up. I'd go tie if I could, but nobody likes a tie. Who day, Adam?
I'll say loss.
Oh, well.
I'll say loss. I guess I'm the hater. And then Bengals hosting the Browns to close the year in a game that could mean something, could not mean something. Maybe there'll be another coin flip. Maybe. I don't know.
I really hope not. I hope that situation never comes about ever again.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yes. But I'm even just the coin flip portion, especially. Like, let's not ever have to go through a scenario like that. Bengals hosting the Browns, last game of the season, Mick. I'll go ahead and I'll say that's a win, even though I don't particularly know. What could that mean? I don't know. So who you got?
I'm going to go loss just because the Browns always seem to have our number and they always seem to be the team that matches up with us better. It's just, the game's a game of matchups, right? And we'll kind of go over this in the Browns-Bengals preview. But, Browns just always seem to beat us, man.
So right now,
the last game.
Going through without picking the Browns game that is about to happen on Sunday, Mick Nelson has the Bengals 13-3. I have the Bengals 12-4. 12-4 is mine. So we both predicted losses to the 49ers. I predicted losses to the Ravens and the Jags. Mick predicted losses to the Steelers and the Browns at home, and I predicted a loss at the Chiefs. So with that, Mick, we work into our Browns preview. But before that, it's a perfect time to debut a brand new segment that kind of ties into our game preview for the week. Mick's Money of the Week. Mick is a degenerate gambler. He gambles away every last dollar that he has.
Yes.
That jersey is the only piece of clothing that he owns, correct? Because you've gambled all the rest of your money.
Wear it to work every day. I don't even work. I just gamble on sports. I hope nobody
Luckily, you have a wife who probably stops you from being a degenerate gambler.
Yeah, I'm not a degenerate gambler, guys.
And it's technically not legal in our state until Thursday when you can do it in person, and then in a couple of weeks you can do it on your app. So technically, you don't break the law either. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't do that. I mean, all I got to do is drive across the river anyways. But
yeah, see, you're lucky there. I have to drive at least an hour to
you got to drive across Louisville into Indiana or whatever.
Correct. And then even that's a toll bridge. So technically I have to pay a couple of extra dollars as well to do that. But again,
whose toll is it? Indiana's toll?
I don't know who has it. I assume it's probably 50-50 or something along the lines of that. But Bengals, your Mick's money pick of the week, though. This is a gambling line or something that Mick wants you to look for is if you are a degenerate gambler, what you want to see or what would be his pick.
So I don't want to call all gamblers degenerates, but if you are a casual gambler, if you're a degenerate gambler, I would heavily look into Tyler Boyd touchdown catch. I don't see any odds for it on DraftKings. I don't know why I don't see any odds for it on DraftKings. I don't know if there's enough of a market for it yet. Hopefully there is one. But Denzel Ward is probably not going to play. He's experienced a lot of concussions recently, and I think he's dealing with concussion protocol right now. I would be very surprised to see him play, which means you're putting a backup cornerback in the slot position if you're the Browns, and I think Tyler Boyd could potentially feast on that.
There's Mick's money of the week. Mike writes in and says he's predicting the Bengals to go 15-2. It'd be a real good season, Mike. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. 15-2. Let's dive into the Bengals-Browns preview. And I think the easiest way to do this, Mick, is to just go basically, Bengals offense versus the Browns defense. And to me, the matchup that I will be watching is, well, really there's two of them, but the main one is who did the Bengals spend all their money on in the offseason? Orlando Brown Jr. Well, congratulations, Orlando Brown Jr. Week 1, you get to go up against Myles Garrett. That to me is the matchup I want to watch.
Garrett or Zadarius Smith? Which one?
Yes, congratulations. Welcome to
the 1A or 1B there. So those are that is the biggest question mark I have with the Bengals offense is how in the world are two tackles who are not playing their natural positions going to handle a top 5 edge rushing duo. That is going to be a sight to see. If I had another prop game or another money line bet I could do, and I think there is a line for this actually. If I go to draft
Joe Burrow sacks,
I would tease that to 4.5 and take.
I was going to say 3.5 was going to be my assumption as to what the line would probably be on that.
You might see an ugly game from the offensive line in this game just because of the matchup and what the Bengals are trying to do in terms of transitioning both of those tackles. So, and I think they'll get they probably won't send many blitzers. They can get just pressure with 3 guys, those 2 alone. So I don't know.
Maybe you'll see honestly
in the double team Garrett a little bit.
You could probably honestly go just Myles Garrett out there and he'd find a way because he's that good of a player. He's a phenomenal football player on that defensive line. Now, I think that the positive look with the Bengals offense against the Browns defense is, and you touched on it just a moment ago, is Denzel Ward. He's in concussion protocol. It's like his 4th concussion in the last couple of years. There have been calls by some head experts for him to just retire because of that, because it's getting to the point now where it's actually very, not that any concussion is not concerning, but it's getting to the point where it's okay, this is something that you actually have to really worry about. But I think whoever is going to fill in their corner at Denzel Ward is not the same kind of player Denzel Ward is. Denzel Ward is one of the best corners in the league, I think, when he's healthy. So because of that, I think that no matter which receiver goes up against and I guess, Mike writes in here, I believe Joe plays on Sunday. It says he'll be ready. I don't have any doubt that Joe Burrow's. Yeah, I don't think that there's any doubt that Joe Burrow is going to play. I know Zach Taylor today didn't necessarily, or yesterday or whenever it was, didn't necessarily like
smoke and mirrors. He's doing the Zach Taylor injury Bengals smoke and mirrors thing. I love that he does that.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Joe Burrow does not play on Sunday, and I'd be worried.
Smoke and mirrors or smoke screen?
Smoke screen.
Smoke screen.
Smoke screen.
Yeah, Zach Taylor smoke screen special.
But still, I think whoever the corner is that replaces Denzel Ward will not be the kind of player. And because of that, I think you're going to see either T or Jamar or maybe Tyler Boyd have a big game.
So Denzel Ward primarily plays in the slot. So that's where I'm thinking Tyler Boyd could make some noise there. But Denzel Ward didn't grade out too well last year. Now he's typically been a pretty decent corner. So, and he's obviously a starter on the team. So that definitely hurts him a little bit, but albeit that, they do have a fairly decent defensive back room. Martin Emerson had a pretty good year last year. You have Greg Newsome, who is usually, a top half of the league, above average starter at cornerback. How those guys match up with T and Jamar will be interesting. I think that those two that Jamar and T probably have the edge. But the other thing is that the Browns do have a very good safety duo with Rodney McLeod coming in to play safety, and then you have Juan Thornhill coming in from Kansas City. So I don't think the defensive back room for the Browns is completely lost if Denzel Ward is out. I mean, so I think the big story is still going to be I think the pass rush is still going to make up for any lost potential from Denzel Ward probably. And then the defensive back room is still pretty good.
Shifting gears to the Browns offense versus the Bengals defense, I think that, the Bengals last year did a really good job against Nick Chubb. Game one, the monstrosity, is that the word we're going to use to describe it? The game on Halloween on Monday Night Football, that everything that could have gone wrong. I mean, they held him 23 carries for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.4 yards a carry. That's not great. But then the game in Cincinnati, 14 carries for 34 yards, 2.4 yards a carry. And of those two, 4.4 and 2.4, those were 2 of his 4 lowest last season. So, I mean, the Bengals did a decent job overall against Nick Chubb. And I think really that's it. Bengals slow down Nick Chubb, they win the game.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key to the Browns on offense. They definitely proved to do that last year, which is crazy because the Browns might have the best interior offensive line unit in football with Joel Petonio, Ethan Pochich, and Wyatt Teller. So whether that success repeats itself again, that's a big question mark, just given how good those 3 guys are in the interior of their offensive line. But, there has been a precedent established there. Now, if we're looking at anywhere else on the Browns roster, I guess we don't know which Deshaun Watson we're going to see. I would say we're probably going to see older Deshaun. We're not going to see what Deshaun did last year, which was really bad. He didn't even progress last year. It seemed like he got worse. So I think we'll probably see Deshaun go back to his old ways in another offseason in Kevin Stefanski's system. I think the biggest, this is kind of an extension of the run game, right? But I think their biggest key to winning on the defensive side of the ball is how they are going to handle the play action game from the Browns, which if they can establish the run, then that opens up the play action, and who knows what happens from there, right? So I think the Browns offense versus the Bengals defense is more of a push. But the one thing that worries me about this game in general is how the Browns pass rush is going to affect anything the Bengals do on the offensive side of the ball.
Mike writes in here and says that he thinks Chase Brown's going to have a big day on Sunday, a touchdown, which would be big. Tyler Boyd says 2 touchdowns. He's riding you with that, Mick. He says Jamar at least 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the defense. Listen, if
this
that
is the
happens,
most optimistic
I am loving
way we can look at this.
Mike, I love it. I love your optimism. And listen, here's the thing. It's not like this Bengals offense and defense can both do it because, like you said, last year Deshaun Watson was awful. And if he hasn't gotten any better, 3 interceptions is not crazy. And, big games from Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and even throwing in Chase Brown in there is not insane. So, I mean, I think, is this optimistic? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not like it is completely crazy.
No, it's not. Now, I don't know about the Chase Brown thing. It seems like the Bengals are never really quick to rush the rookie running backs out there. At least, I mean, I guess that was more with Marvin, but like how Zach hasn't really drafted any running backs, that were groomed to be potential starters or anything like that. Like we didn't
Rodney
rush Chris
Anderson?
Evans out. Huh?
Rodney Anderson? Where's the Rodney Anderson love?
Did he even play? Did he play a game?
Mark Walton? I don't think was he Zach Taylor? He might have been
Mark
last
Walton
year of Marvin.
Was 2018 Marvin.
So he was last year of Marvin. I do agree. I think that as far as the AFC North as a whole, to kind of jump into the AFC North predictions, this is maybe the most interesting storyline of the entire year in the AFC North is which Deshaun Watson is it? Because I think if it is Deshaun Watson in Houston, the Browns can win the division. If it is Deshaun Watson in Cleveland last year, I don't think the Browns have a shot. Browns might not even finish above 500 in that case.
So, yeah, I have a hard time believing that Deshaun Watson's going to look anything similar to what he did last year.
I think it's somewhere in between.
It's probably somewhere in between. I would say probably a top half of the league quarterback next year, borderline top 10. I just think I think there's probably just a rough transition period from his offensive system at Houston to going to Kevin Stefanski style in Cleveland, and that just didn't translate very well in year one. Now that you have another year in that system, you have a whole off season with your team. I agree, it's not Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, but has anybody gained that? Maybe Mahomes has gained that reputation in the league right now. I don't think Burrow has gained that reputation yet, even though I think Joe Burrow is awesome. But if we're talking about Deshaun here, I think you're going to see something in the middle along the lines of what you said. And I don't think it's going to be incompetent quarterback play by any means.
I do want to write in here. I haven't seen exactly what had happened, but the Cincinnati Reds have come back to win the game. Christian Encarnacion Strand had a walk-off. I don't know as to what kind of walk-off it was. Gotta love CES. Special teams, I think, is where the Bengals could have an advantage in this game.
The Browns even have a kicker.
Dustin Hopkins, they traded for him. Cade York is gone. And so, yeah, that's interesting that they have Dustin Hopkins. Punter, I'm interested to see Brad Robbins. And then the return game on the depth chart today, read into what the depth chart you want. It had Chris Evans as the Bengals kickoff returner and Charlie Jones as the Bengals punt returner. I know this is something. Now, again, this is the depth chart. Is that actually what comes out and happens? We'll find out. I think that's more than likely what will happen. But I'll be interested. I'll be interested to see here. Patrick Mahomes says Joe Burrow is a stone-cold killer. He'll have them to win football games every year. I agree. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. Yeah. Hard to disagree. Let's see what it was. It was a base hit that scored Ellie De La Cruz. So that's how it was. But Reds win.
Are still in it.
They are. That's
crazy.
At least
are they 5 games above 500 still?
2 straight against the Mariners too, which is good.
And they've got a really easy schedule coming up. They got like the Pirates, the Mets, the
Cardinals. Yeah, Cardinals this weekend, I think. We're getting off topic though. We got to make sure that here is we're getting closer to the end of the podcast here. I'm getting distracted by the Reds, and it's usually a good thing when I'm getting distracted by the Reds. It's time for what everyone's been waiting for, Mick. Prediction time. Bengals at the Browns. Ian Eagle, Charles Davis on the call, and I think Evan Washburn. on CBS, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central. And it is going to be Clete Blakeman as the official, up by the mistake by the lake. Mick Nelson, you have the Bengals right now at 13-3. Do you have the Bengals winning or losing on Sunday? No. Mike writes in and he says 41-10 Bengals.
I'm going to go 34-20 Browns, and I think it's going to be an ugly week 1 game. Now, this is going to – yes, you guys are – I think Bengals fans might impale me after saying that, but there are a lot of question marks in matchups that I'm not very comfortable with in week 1. This is actually the worst matchup that I wanted in the first week of the year, believe it or not. Really, I think it's just going to boil down to the Browns pass rush is going to obliterate this offensive line. And it's not because, the offensive line for the Bengals is bad. It's the fact that you have your first game back with Jonah Williams at right tackle when he's usually played left, and Orlando Brown Jr. playing left tackle when he's usually played right. And to throw it all in there, they are going up against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. So that is just going to be that's got to be a nightmare of a situation for the first game, I think, for those two guys. And how much does that impact the rest of the game on the offensive side? I think that impacts the game a lot. I know Joe Burrow handles pressure pretty well, and that's like really the one silver lining that there is that, you do have Joe Burrow under center, throwing the ball to a very highly skilled position or receiver position. So, that might be the saving grace, but I don't know, man.
Here's the thing.
I'm not comfortable about this game.
I agree and disagree with you. I do agree that the Bengals are going to lose. But I don't think the pass rush is going to be as big of a factor as you think it is. I think if we set the over-under at 3.5 sacks, you're hammering the over, and I think you're going to see under on that. Now, I think maybe 3, 2, somewhere in that range. I'm going to take Browns 24, Bengals 20. And it's going to be that the offense, I think this game's going to look kind of like the Bears game back in 2021, where it's slow, and then all of a sudden, late in the third quarter, the offense catches fire, but just runs out of time. I think they get into the groove again. Bengals 24-20. Mike says, most single fans would say they're going to lose, so they win. I honestly, I like
that, and that way,
you can't be disappointed.
I can't be disappointed by this, but yeah, this is like the worst. This is not the matchup that I wanted to start out week 1. And the Browns, just given the precedent that they've given us the past few years, they scare the living crap out of me. Matchup.
So because of that, now our final predictions is, Mick, you have the Bengals going 13-4 in the regular season, which would more than likely be enough to win the division. You got to imagine. Yeah. I have the Bengals then going 12-5, which probably would be enough to win the division. And the Bengals would be then the first team to win the AFC North three straight years. So Mick, very quickly here, as we're running a little short on time, is do the Bengals win the AFC North for the 3rd straight season?
Based off of the win-loss record that I gave, yes. But winning the division 3 years in a row is a very difficult thing to do. And is it unprecedented? Did you say it was?
It's never happened in this.
It's unprecedented against the loaded AFC North. So we went through the matchups, and I said, I think the Bengals will win this game, or we eventually got to a 13-4 record,
but it is interesting. You have them going 3-3 in the division.
Well, that's where, I think that's where the toughest games are the division games. I mean, you do have the AFC South, which is potentially a cakewalk. You got the NFC West, who's potentially a cakewalk. You got the Jaguars, who I think are overrated, and then got the Chiefs, which that's a toss-up. Got the Vikings, Bills, which we handled them last year.
Niners. Yep, you got the NFC West, which is tough.
Yeah.
But so I agree. I think the Bengals win the division because I've been going 4-2 in the division. It would not shock me though if there's another 12-5 team in the division. I think probably more than likely though. I think you're gonna have a couple of 10-7s. And I think the Bengals do win the division. You already said that you don't think they get the number 1 seed. So what I'll throw this question for you too is: do the Bengals go back to the Super Bowl this year?
I sure hope so. Do I think they will?
It is a yes or no question. Do the Bengals go back to the Super Bowl this year? You know what? I'll go ahead and I'll say it. Yes.
I'll go yes. I think that here's the thing. It doesn't matter how the regular season turns out. As long as they get to the tournament at the end of the year, Joe Burrow has shown an ability to win in the tournament. So,
okay. Who are the Bengals playing then in the Super Bowl?
Cowboys.
You're with Mike then. I would never pick the Cowboys personally.
The Cowboys really have the most complete roster in the NFL this year, which is
until they show me they can do something. Frank says here that he's all on board saying the Bengals get to the Super Bowl. I don't know. I'm out on the Cowboys. You're talking about regression candidates. They could be a regression candidate.
I don't think they are. Offense. No, I don't think they are on offense at all. You got to think Dak Prescott last year is the reason why you saw a regression from him last year is a lack of receiving depth. Now you've replenished that a little bit. You've got Brandon Cooks coming in. You've got Michael Gallup coming back healthy. And then you've got a top 5 defense and a decent offensive line still. I mean, I don't
know. I think that if we're
Dallas.
I don't know. Do I want to pick the Niners?
No.
That's the craziest thing is it's like I think that the AFC winner is so much harder to predict than the NFC.
The AFC
because I think it is. And you know what I'll say? I'll say it'll be Bengals Eagles. I say the Eagles get back for the second straight year. So you have Bengals Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Mick, who wins the Super Bowl?
Bengals. I can't pick another team. That's
so Frank. I'm assuming is agreeing with me and saying the Eagles. And you know what I'm saying? I agree. I say the Bengals beat the Eagles in a thrilling game, and we are doing a live podcast on Super Bowl night, probably crying, and tears will be streaming down our face. And I have goosebumps here just thinking about that moment because I don't even know what we would be thinking.
Season comes around for me. What better can it be? That's
listen. But if the Bengals were Super Bowl champions, I think you'd be feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah,
even for tax season.
That's going to be a difficult work day to go into the next day. But
no, listen, the city is going. I don't even know that Cincinnati will still be standing. Like it might be gone. They might, especially because you got to think that if the AFC Championship is in Cincinnati and they win, I guess this would be if they win the Super Bowl. Like fans are going to be hyped to a new level.
Yeah, that's going to be scary. That's
I can't wait. Frank agrees with us. Bengals are winning the Super Bowl. Whoever the Bengals play, Super Bowl, not going to let them lose, Mike says here for Joey B. Remember, though, to follow us on Facebook, as you might be watching on the Houday Nation or the WDN Today Facebook page. Make sure you like them. Follow us as well. We have our own Facebook page, Jungle Juice. Go and like that. We're also on most of the podcast platforms. We're on Spotify. We are on... I think we're on iHeartRadio, and I think we're on Apple Podcasts right now. Yeah, it was weird. When I signed us up for iHeart, Mick, I hope it's okay. They said, lying on this sheet means that you could be guilty of perjury. So I hope I didn't lie.
Did you? What'd you?
No, but I did tell them that, our podcast is clean. So the more you swear, the more that I might get charged with perjury.
A single swear word on this podcast.
Not this week. Not this week. So we got to make sure that
there's a couple last.
There was one or two.
Nothing.
There were a couple of them. But so we're on most of those streaming platforms. So be sure you do that. We will traditionally be on Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Make sure you follow us on our social media channels. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Jungle Juice. And that's how you can keep track. And we'll be back on Wednesday to break down the Bengals-Browns game. Maybe Mick and I will both be very happy because we were wrong.
I hope nothing more.
You got any final parting words here before we wrap it up? I don't know if you had any points that you wanted to mention that I might have cut off.
I don't think so. I think we covered pretty much everything. I'm happy football is going to be back this week. Houday, Frank Ramirez. I agree. Houday. I wouldn't buy too much in the week 1 hype. Like I've already said, I think it's going to be a tough matchup, and it's just a matchup that the Browns usually end up, winning. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, and I can't wait to watch football on Sunday. It's going to be a great day.
I cannot wait either. So that'll wrap us up for this week on this edition of Jungle Juice. We'll be back on Wednesday, the 13th. I had to sit there and think for a second about what day of the week that would be at 8 Eastern time. So make sure you follow us so you can watch us back next week. And we'll talk about Bengals Browns and preview Bengals Ravens. Lots to get to. Mick, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yep, been a pleasure. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Have a good evening, and hooday.